I would like to welcome you to the first ever Operation Drywater National Press Event. Operation Drywater is a national campaign to educate on the dangers of DUI and increased enforcement and officer presence on our waterways to deter such behavior. In partnership with the National Association of State Boating Administrators, the U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and very important today is Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency is honored to host this event to highlight the dangers of drinking and boating, not only in Tennessee, but throughout our country. TWRA officers remain steadfast throughout the year in their education and enforcement of BUI laws. However, this weekend we plan to highlight the dangers and preventable aspects of boating under the influence. Each year, our wildlife officers remove impaired boaters from our waterways. Each year, our wildlife officers investigate boating-related incidents that lead to serious injury, death, where the primary contributing factor is alcohol and or drug use. This is wonderful. For years, drinking and boating has been socially accepted by some boaters. It's time for that perspective to be changed. BUI is DUI. It's time we begin to call it that. Our wildlife officers have been trained and sworn to protect our waterways daily, and part of their mission is to identify and remove impaired operators before they become the next statistic. Let me leave you with this. If you are found to be impaired while boating in a boat in Tennessee waterways under the influence, you will be charged with BUI, arrested, and taken to jail. Now I would like to welcome Mandy Larson, who is a victim of a BUI crash.
July 31st, 2016. That was almost 6 years ago. On the Tennessee River, on a pontoon boat driven by a drunk driver, he drove straight into a barge moored on the bank. My 21-year-old son, Nick Wilhoit, was in the front of that boat. That night, in the Vanderbilt trauma unit, in a tiny room with no windows, I was told that my son did not survive. There are no possible words in the English language that would describe the feeling that this mama felt. When I was able to see him, he was still hooked up to machines, but they were now silent. Losing a child is the worst possible thing that can ever happen to a human being. Absolutely nothing compares to it. The fact that it was preventable makes it even worse. Since I have been involved with MAD, it is my purpose in life to fight against drunk driving and not to have to watch another parent go through this nightmare. I've spoken to so many people in the last 5 years, mostly offenders, and I've been emotional every single time. It does not get easier, and it does not go away. I've learned to hide the horrible face of grief most of the time, but it will always be a part of my life. I've also spoken to TWRA agents for training purposes, and I told them, you will never know when you take a drunk boater off the water if you saved a life that day. Keep doing what you're doing. This is keeping drunk drivers off the water and off the road. The steps that are being taken and the changes in laws have been a huge step recently with BUI penalties being aligned with DUI penalties. I'm thankful, but we have a long way to go before there are no more victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy, for being here, and thank you for sharing your story with us. And thank you, Darren and the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency for coordinating this event with us, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for hosting us at this location today. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Taylor Matsko, and I am the Communications and Marketing Director for NASBLA. NASBLA is the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators. We are a national nonprofit that represents the recreational boating authorities in all 56 U.S. states and territories, including the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. We are all here today to talk about the preventable crime of boating under the influence and what we are doing to educate boaters and prevent future incidents related to boating under the influence. Alcohol use continues to be a leading contributing factor in recreational boating fatalities and a leading factor in recreational boating incidents. Nationally, we are also seeing a rise in incidents related to drug impairment. In 2009, NASBLA, in partnership with the U.S. Coast Guard, launched the Operation Drywater campaign to address this problem of impaired boating on our nation's waterways. Operation Drywater is a year-round national boating under the influence heightened awareness and enforcement weekend campaign focused on reducing the number of incidents and fatalities related to alcohol and drug-related incidents on the water. Annually, Operation Drywater facilitates a 3-day heightened awareness and enforcement weekend targeting operators who choose to boat under the influence of alcohol or drugs. The 3-day Operation Drywater weekend takes place each year around July 4th, a holiday unfortunately known for impaired boating and deadly incidents. The 2022 Operation Drywater Heightened Awareness and Enforcement Weekend will be starting tomorrow, July 2nd, and will run through Monday, July 4th, nationwide. Law enforcement agencies from all 56 states and territories, including the U.S. Coast Guard, will be participating in Operation Drywater. These agencies and their officers will focus their efforts on detecting impaired boaters, removing them from our waterways, and in educating the public about the dangers associated with boating under the influence of alcohol and drugs. While many people recognize that impairment is dangerous for the operator of any vessel, boating under the influence is also extremely perilous for passengers as well. Research shows that alcohol use by passengers presents a danger regardless of the activity of the operator. Impairment can lead to slips, falls overboard, injuries, and deaths that could have been prevented had the person not been impaired while boating. We encourage everyone out on the water to stay safe by choosing to boat sober. Since the launch of the Operation Drywater campaign in 2009, over 5,000 impaired operators have been removed during Operation Drywater weekend from our nation's waterways, preventing dangerous and potentially tragic consequences. Officers have also made contact with more than 2 million boaters during the 3-day weekend as part of the outreach campaign. Keeping the drugs and alcohol off with wearing a life jacket, off switch, and taking a boating education course prior to hitting the water. The U.S. Coast Guard is an important partner in these efforts, and I'd like to introduce Petty Officer 3rd Class Ben Gardner of the U.S. Coast Guard to speak on their role in Operation Drywater.
Good morning. My name is Ben Gardner with the U.S. Coast Guard. I'm here today to speak about safe boating and the use of alcohol. With the 4th of July holiday approaching, the Coast Guard would like to offer some reminders and advice to boaters so we can ensure a safe holiday weekend. Every year, the 3 leading causes of boating accidents are operator inexperience, inattention, and alcohol impairment. First-time boaters with limited experience should consider taking a class or hiring a licensed captain to instruct them on safe boating practices. These classes are offered by TWRA and offer a multitude of benefits. We want to remind everyone that wearing a personal flotation device and utilizing safety equipment aboard your vessel can be the difference between life and death in an emergency situation. Boater operators should also always be aware of their surroundings. Lastly, but possibly most important, is alcohol impairment while operating a boat. Boaters should be aware that laws are similar on the water as they are on the road. Driving a boat and being under the influence of alcohol is not only dangerous to you, but also to people around you. Fines and penalties for operating under the influence are expensive and can result in losing your driver's license. Prosecutors are starting to take BUI crashes more seriously. Recently, an Alabama man was sentenced to more than 30 years in prison for his role in a fatal BUI crash. While the operator of the boat is responsible for knowing and following the rules of the water, many will ask, what are the rules for passengers? Well, it is not illegal for passengers to be intoxicated aboard a vessel. Accidents with passengers being impaired are on the rise, and the risk of falling overboard is exponentially multiplied. As the operator of a vessel, you must ask yourself, if an emergency were to happen right now, would you want the people helping you in this emergency situation to be intoxicated? The Coast Guard maintains a memorandum of agreement with each of the 50 states, and this agreement binds us to work collaboratively with state agencies of ridding our waterways of impaired boaters. As the 4th of July weekend rolls around, we'll be coordinating with all of our partner state agencies to ensure that we are engaging with boaters in the most complimentary manner possible. When the Coast Guard detects an impaired boater, we issue them a federal notice of violation and then turn them over to the proper authorities for further processing. In 2020, 296 accidents happened in the United States, resulting in 115 deaths. Alcohol use was one of the primary contributing factors to these deaths. And of these incidents, the majority of them were being operated in our lakes, ponds, and reservoirs like we have here in Tennessee. In 2021, we had 247 accidents, and that resulted in 86 deaths across the United States. Alcohol, once again, was one of the leading contributing factors. With high gas prices and the cost of boating skyrocketing, many people are using paddle crafts as a way to enjoy a day on the water. Last year, 28% of all recreational boating fatalities involved paddlers. Motorized and non-motorized operators need to take care to safely share the water and be aware of their surroundings at all times. On a personal note, I have been a fisherman and an avid boater all of my life, and I've watched friends of mine lose their lives due to alcohol and boating being mixed together. Our nation's abundant waterways are best enjoyed with a clear and sober mind and a clear conscience. Please save the drinking for when you get home. Having a few drinks and being on the water is not worth losing your life or that of someone else. We hope our boaters have a safe and fun 4th of July weekend, and no, fun and safety are not mutually exclusive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Next, I would like to introduce Greg Thomas of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Thank you, Taylor. The Corps of Engineers really appreciates and loves that we've got this group together. That's for sure. I mean, 4th of July is coming this weekend. We want everybody to be safe on the water. Just do if you've got a buddy that's not doing the right thing, just ask them to do the right thing in any safety situation. We're going to have several rangers out on the water this weekend at our various Nashville district lakes, Center Hill, Cordell Hull, Del Holla, Cheatham, Old Hickory, here at Percy Priest. They're going to be looking for safety violations. If they see somebody acting crazy, we're going to take care of them, that's for sure. So we'll be out in force, no doubt. And on the Corps of Engineers, we preach water safety, wearing your life jacket, not boating or not drinking while you're boating, big time. We just ask that you wear a life jacket. There's no telling how many conversations I've had with the officers that are here after we have a fatality. If it only wore their life jacket, it's just like wearing your seatbelt. So wear your life jacket. Make sure it's fits correctly, and you just put it on. There's no telling how many people we have to come out here to boat and they don't know how to swim. Especially if you don't know how to swim, put on a life jacket. Okay, can't stress that enough. Also, too, just a couple of other things as far as boating goes. Wear your kill switch. It's now so if you are boating under the influence, if you got your kill switch on, I mean, at least it'll stop the boat, or if you stuff in the water outside of the boat, that kill switch can save your life. That's for sure. And that is the law in the state of Tennessee now, to wear that kill switch. Also, too, I'd just like to make a dig for, we've had a couple of fatalities here on Percy Priest Lake in the last couple of years with cliff jumping. So just like with, drinking while, boating, if somebody dares you to jump off that cliff, just don't do it. I mean, don't drive that boat. Don't jump off that cliff or that bridge. So we'd like to get through the holiday weekend without any fatalities. That's our goal. Even TWRA, that's their goal, is to not have any fatalities. That's for sure. I've got a special guest with me today. This is Bobber, the safety dog. He goes around to different events and just tries to get the word out there about boater safety. If you want him to come to your venue, you can call our office at 615-889-1975. But we want everybody to do like Bobber does and just do the right thing. be safe out there on the water. Wear your life jacket. And we want everybody to have a safe and enjoyable holiday weekend this weekend. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Now I would like to invite NASBLA's BUI Program Manager, Todd Radabaugh, to talk about the importance of boating under the influence training and developments in detection and enforcement.
My name's Todd Radabaugh. Detecting impairment is not difficult. Most of us have been doing it since we were old enough to recognize odd behaviors in other people. But unfortunately, prosecuting those cases can be trickier. Since 1975, it was recognized that law enforcement had some real gaps in their ability to successfully detect impaired operation. One study concluded that only 1 out of 4 operators with a BAC between 0.10 and 0.20 who came in face-to-face contact with law enforcement were arrested. 1 out of 4. Those numbers are bad because 0.10 is not borderline, it's not close, that is impaired. So a study was undertaken to develop tests for officers to use to be better able to detect those folks that had made that dangerous choice to get behind the wheel of a car on the roadway. Those studies continued throughout the years, through the 90s, but basically since 1983, the standing field sobriety testing battery has been recognized across the country as a great tool for detecting impairment. That doesn't work for the maritime law enforcement professional. It also doesn't really work for a highway traffic safety officer who does not work in a city, but works in rural paved roads and interstate systems sometimes. But because of the need for a seated battery for maritime use, in 2010, a seated battery of standardized field sobriety tests was recognized and was rolled out to the country. Since 2010, thousands of officers have been trained in an effective battery field sobriety test to detect impairment regardless of the drug that the person is under the influence of, without having to come back to shore to make that informed decision. Officers can now make those informed decisions out on the water. The ultimate goal of that is to increase deterrence, to get people to think about the choice they're making when they get behind the wheel of a car, a vessel, a motorcycle, whatever it may be. Now officers can make those decisions without having to take someone back to shore and administer extra tests. This is safe for the public, prevents unnecessary officer absences trying to come back and determine whether or not a suspect is under the influence. It's better for the public because if they're not under the influence, an officer can determine that pretty quickly out on water. Currently, we have 353 instructors throughout the country who are training officers on the seated standardized field sobriety testing battery. And again, it does not matter the substance that is causing the impairment. These tests work to detect it and give the officer scientifically validated clues. I would ask the public, educate yourself. We can tell you that boating under the influence is dangerous. The statistics will show you that. But I encourage you to visit NASBLA's website, Operation Drywater. Look at the research yourself so that you can make an educated choice before you get behind the wheel. As a captain of a vessel, you're not only responsible for yourself, but for all of your passengers and the rest of your community that's out there on the water. So make a choice, boat safe, boat sober, get a designated operator, and help spread the word. We are trying to educate not only officers to make them confident in these decisions, but also prosecutors and judges to help them understand that impairment is not difficult to detect and that impaired operation is a serious crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. NASBLA's mission is to support and strengthen the state's ability to reduce the number of incidents and fatalities related to recreational boating and to do our part to make a culture of safe and enjoyable boating for everyone. This year, NASBLA and Mothers Against Drunk Driving established a formal partnership working together to put an end to impaired operation. MAD's mission is to put an end to drunk and drug driving. This year, MAD launched their first ever Boating Under the Influence prevention campaign and NASBLA is excited to be able to support them and combine our efforts. It is important to remember that drunk boaters become drunk drivers at the boat bit ramp, and drunk drivers become drunk boaters when they hit the water. MAD and NASBLA are working together to keep recreational boaters and the law enforcement officers that work these waters safe through education, awareness, and enforcement efforts. I would now like to turn it over to my good friend, Alex Audie, National President of Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Alex Audie, and I'm the National President of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, but that's only part of the reason that I'm here. The fact that we're launching this today is both perfect and incredibly complicated. Perfect, because we're kicking off Operation Drywater, and what a better time to do that than July 4th weekend. Complicated, because 12 years ago today was the last day. It was the last day that I got to be oblivious to the problem of drunk driving. It was the last day that I woke up without pain. It was the last day that I walked on 2 feet. And the last day that I went to the lake and didn't have to be scared of anything. 12 years ago tomorrow, I was 13 years old. I was sitting still on a jet ski behind my dad's house on Lake Harrington in Danville, Kentucky. Had been on the water for years, had my boating license for years. It was nothing out of the ordinary. I was waiting on my mom and 7-year-old brother to dock our boat so that I could dock the jet ski and go up to the house for the evening. I was sitting across a nearby bridge. When I saw him, I did what I had been trained. I gave my mom a thumbs up to let her know I saw him coming and I wasn't going to move. The boat was headed towards my mom and my brother. My mom screamed. He banked it to the left and never straightened up. The boat hit me from the side going over 60 miles per hour, threw me off the jet ski, went up over the jet ski. I landed face down on the water and the boat landed on top of my body. I sustained severe, life-threatening, and lifelong injuries from head to toe, including a traumatic brain injury, a shattered jaw, a broken neck, a broken collarbone, a lacerated liver, bilateral shattered femurs, and the loss of my right leg. I was airlifted to the hospital and given 24 hours to live. I spent a week in a coma, several weeks in the ICU, a week in rehab, 6 weeks in a neck brace, and 3 months in a wheelchair. To absolutely no fault of my own, this was my new life. But the woman that little girl would have grown up to be was gone, and the life she would have had was over. 2.5 hours after the crash, the man over 3 times over the legal limit. This would be his 4th DUI, both on the water and on the road. He was charged $250 and sent home with the opportunity to reoffend. I'm told he has many times since. This happened 12 years ago tomorrow. Every day is hard, but anniversaries are different. I'm so grateful for NASBLA, the U.S. Coast Guard, TWRA, and MAD for letting us put this together today. 12 years ago, when I needed somewhere to go to talk about what happened to me and prevent it from happening to anyone else, NASBLA gave me a home. NASBLA gave me a place to go to make a difference and to but they did more than that. I began working with NASBLA in 2018, and when they were moving their headquarters building, we were going through a supply closet, and I found my crash report. NASBLA was there for me long before I knew that they were. And so I'm thankful. I'm thankful for all of you being here today. I'm thankful for MAD's BUI campaign. This is something that has been a long time coming, and I'm so grateful to have seen happen over Memorial Day weekend. BUI equals DUI. Know before you vote. We have resources. We have launched this across the country because it's important to me, important to MAD, and to NASBLA that people understand voting under the influence is driving under the influence. It's not an accident. It's not a mistake. It's a choice. There are so many things that I want to say to you today, but I'm just so emotional. But I just want to say that I'm thankful. I'm thankful for all of you being here. This is a perfect time to raise awareness of the dangers of boating under the influence, both being drunk as a boat operator and a passenger. There are truly so many risks, and we just ask that people make the right choice. We want boating to be fun this weekend and all summer long, but we want people to have fun in a way that makes sure we all get to go home at night, and we all get to go home in one piece, because I didn't. So thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Alex. We appreciate you sharing your story with all of us here today. Before we wrap up here, I want to give a special thanks to the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency for hosting this first ever national Operation Drywater Kickoff event. We appreciate all of the time that your staff and officers have put into this event and all of the efforts you will be putting into this upcoming Operation Drywater weekend. I also want to take a moment to thank all of the Operation Drywater partners and participating agencies that will be out on the water this weekend reminding boaters of safe boating practices. We greatly appreciate your efforts of coordinating activities, working patrols, promoting the event, and offering support of the Operation Drywater campaign and its overall goal to reduce the number of incidents and fatalities associated with drug and alcohol use on our waterways. Your dedication and hard work is what makes the difference and helps keep everyone safe out on the water. So on behalf of NASBLA, I would like to thank all of our partners here behind me and all of you for coming today and joining us for this special event. At this time, we will be taking any questions that you may have. Well, if there's no questions, we will also be around for interviews afterwards, and I will hand it over to Captain Matt Bryan to talk about logistics for later today.
Thank you. My name is Matt Bryan. I'm a captain here in the Nashville district. This is actually the first time I've heard Alex's story, and that's why we're here. You know, that's why the guys behind me and the others in District 21 across the state, that's why they get out here and do this job. You know, our number one goal is to make sure that everybody goes home at the end of the day. The lake is fun. We intend for it to be fun, but at the end of the day, we want to go home. We want to make sure that everybody that comes out here goes home. Okay. Our guys are dedicated to their job. They work tirelessly. They work day and night, and that's going to start this evening. It's going to run through Monday. But this weekend isn't the only weekend that we do this. We do this out here every weekend. Right here on Priest, Old Hickory, the Cumberland River system, across the state. We do this every weekend. We get out here and boat. We do try and educate the public, but at times we have to take other means. If it means arresting somebody for boating under influence, that's what we do. But, you know, I appreciate the guys. There's going to be about 25 of us out here on Priest and Old Hickory in this district. We'll be running boat patrols day and night. And I just want to thank them as well. Thank them for their hard work. So as of now, we'll conclude this. We do have boats out here if anybody wants to go out and get any shots of the lake or any media. If y'all want to go out, you're more than welcome to. So, thank you.